Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. It's Teresa here with a layout for the Traci Reed Designs blog. Today, I'm going to share with you a 2-page spread that I've done, and the techniques that I want to share with you are just some fun ways that you can sort of customize your journaling cards and or pattern papers in your project life layouts. And so first off, the products that I'm going to be working with are a template from Zane, and then the digital collection is called Renewal by Traci Reed Designs. So let me pop into my process here and get started to show you some specific cards on this layout that I customized. Okay. So I'm working here in Photoshop, and the first thing I'm going to do is load all of the journaling cards from the Renewal Collection into its own tab. It's under the Scripts tool, and that makes it really easy to pull in the journal cards as you want to place them into your blocks. And you'll notice in my template here that the blocks are different than our regular 3x4 and 4x6 blocks that we're used to from the standard Design A. And this is something that I really wanted to do differently in my project life layouts this year. And for 2024, this is my second layout for January for 2024 from last year. And so I just wanted to have a different feel for my project life layouts and a little bit more visual interest. And also you can see at the bottom that there is a lot more space for that beautiful purple floral in the Renewal Collection. And so what you can see now is how I am placing some of the journal cards that I think I'm going to use. And of course, I want to have enough space for journaling, and I want to create space for journaling using some of the filler cards. And I'm also going to use some of the pattern papers in the collection, like you can see I'm placing here on the left-hand side with that yellow stripe. And so for me, this is part of the fun of hybrid scrapbooking, is being able to sort of customize the products a little bit to suit your needs and to create the look that you're wanting to go after. And so some of the journal cards, you'll notice that I'm just using the grid from, and some of them I'm going to add a journaling block to. And then of course the pattern papers, I'm going to add a journaling block or text right over top of the yellow stripe. Actually, if you followed me for any amount of time, you know that I love any kind of pattern paper that has lines, any kind of stamp that has lines on it. And that yellow stripe, of course, has the cutest lines that I think will look really cool. And then, so what I'm going to do there is make sure that block lined back up. There is an empty space there underneath the photo of Alan and our dog Mickey. And I will fill that later with one of the labels from the collection. So you won't see me add anything to that right now. So once I got that yellow stripe placed and looked at all of the journal cards together on the full 2-page layout, I realized that the diagonal yellow stripe on the right-hand side was kind of competing a little bit. So I'm going to use the Life Looks Like This Right Now filler card. And so it makes for a nice little white space there, which I think is really important. And I'm going to leave that card as it is. And so now I'm going to start adding a few things to these journal cards to show you how I'm going to customize them. And so this is your moment card. Again, a great little filler card, some beautiful word art. And I'm going to add the sequin scatter to this card. And this really makes me excited. This technique will it allows you to use some of the digital elements in hybrid scrapbooking that you normally might otherwise not use or might not have thought about. How can you use that in your project life layout? And this is exactly the way that I'm using it. I'm pulling it in and adding some of these stars to the top and the bottom of the card, and then using the eraser tool, I'm just kind of deleting some of the elements that compete with the word art so that they just sort of make it look like that word art is coming out of the sky, or it's coming towards you from the night sky. And I love that. It just made me so happy to do that. And then for this journal card here, this is a great filler card, but it also has a grid, which again is lines, and it makes a great little home for a text block. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use my text tool, and I'm using the font Modern number 20. I use this one pretty much all the time, and I'm just going to add my text there. And of course, it kind of gets lost a little bit against the background. So I'm going to add a white rectangle, just using the rectangle tool right behind that text. And since there was already a white block above it in the journal card itself, I made sure to copy that color that Traci used for that white, so that the whites here on this card do match each other, just in the off chance that that white was a little different shade or something. You never know. And that makes, voila, a great text journal card now that you've got your words and your story that you want to tell. And then just to add a little bit more color and tie it into the rest of the layout, I'm going to add just 3 of these little heart circles. Those, of course, could be printed and added later. I just went ahead and left them as digital elements, and they will be printed with the text box directly onto that journal card when I'm ready to print everything. Another way that I'm going to customize these text blocks and create sort of my own journaling card here is, again, with this yellow stripe pattern paper. And the easiest thing to do, now you'll notice that the proportions of this block are it's a bit horizontal, right? And so instead of having just rows upon rows of lengthy text where, your eye sort of loses track of what line it's on, I'm breaking it up and pulling in this tag, the little rainbow, and the word art, and also a little star behind everything. And those elements I'm going to create as one unit. I'm going to convert them to a smart object and print those out and add them to the layout once it's done. But that leaves a nicer, more proportionate, kind of easier to read journal spot here to write the stories. And what I'm actually doing in this card is writing about 2 of the photos in the layout, the storage cart and the wood pieces that you see to the right. And since it's 2 stories, I went ahead and wrote my paragraphs about what I wanted to say, and then I went ahead and added in the number 1 and 2, just to sort of, remotely relate to those paragraphs, as in this is point 1 and this is point 2. I also added just a very opaque rectangle again behind that text tool. That's just a method that I use all the time to help text feel easier to read when it's on the page. And I'm just sort of adjusting the margins here on this text box and making it fit right within the confines of that area in the pattern paper. And here's where I'm going to go and find, there were of course some great alphabets in this collection, but there are also this 0 to 9 set in the Ellies, I believe. And so those are the ones that I'm going to go ahead and use and place there for the numbers. It's sort of a different way to, how we see all the time the journaling cards that have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever. So it's kind of just a different way to do that. And what I'm going to do as I place those is I'm going to make sure that they're touching the tag and touching the other elements so that they all can be printed as one piece once they go to the printer. And so you can see that's just sort of what I'm finalizing here, and finalizing the sizes that I want everything to be and how I want this proportioned to the rest of the journal card. And that's kind of some of the tricks of dealing with blocks that are different than the 4x6 and the 3x4 size. And it's also kind of the fun of again, working with digital elements, but turning them into the hybrid layouts that we love. And I just love playing with these elements like this and watching these little blocks come together. It just makes me all kinds of happy. I'm all kinds of digging this way of scrapbooking right now. And so I hope that you'll try it, and I think you'll like it too. Especially if you like the computer side of scrapbooking and the physical side of scrapbooking. And that's basically what hybrid is and what the fun of it is. So once I get all of that worked out, I'm going to do another filler card over here on the right hand side and show you again how I'm adding the sequins. This is to repeat the sequin element here on this side of the page, and this helps the layout all get tied together, right? Repeating elements. The eye already knows that it's seen that on the layout and it's familiar, and they're also just really darn cute. Look at how gorgeous they look added to the yellow, and I'm really excited about that. The other thing that I'm going to do over here is work with this rainbow pattern paper. And instead of adding a text block just straight to the pattern paper, I'm going to use a label and a couple of supporting embellishments this time. And this is just kind of point B of the tutorials here. Just another way to add text to a pattern paper. And the reason that I chose to use a label for this card, for this pattern paper, is because if you put text directly on top of those rainbows, it's probably going to compete with the rainbows and make it a little bit harder to read. And so the label gives you a nice space to do that and to add your text. that you're wanting to tell the stories. One of the things that I'm especially loving about scrapbooking this Project Life this way is, one, you'll notice that all of my journaling is typed on the computer and printed out, and there are it makes for more words on the page, and I'm telling more stories simply because my handwriting is kind of big. And so this way I have more space, and then there's also more spaces on the page to add labels, to add text blocks, and so on and so forth. And I'm really liking that. I think you can see that when you see the layout overall on the blog post, which of course I'll link down below to. I think you'll see how many opportunities for journaling and how many words ended up on this page. And that makes me really happy. I like that. I feel like I'm telling more of the story rather than just one or two sentences about on a journal card here or there. It seems a lot more intentional for me, and I think that's one of the goals. One of the goals here. I've always thought it was important in the past to include my handwriting, and I think I have a ton of layouts that have my handwriting on them, so I can I can feel comfortable using the computer now, and that sounds really silly. The last thing that I'm going to do, I decided to use this really beautiful deep blue floral as the background for all the journal cards and photos. And when I did that, the This Is Your Moment and the Keeping It Real word art got lost on that floral. And so what I'm going to do is simply create a rectangle behind them and frame those in yellow. And here you'll be able to see how that makes that pop and puts that back where puts that emphasis on that word art back to where it really needs to be, and it makes it pop off the page, and it looks just right. And so I've got that all planned out. I went and printed everything, and now I'm just going to share you a quick look at my process. You can see all of the items printed out here, and all the photos are printed out. And then, of course, all of the embellishments that I created, I turned them all into single objects, printed those, and cut them in the silhouette. And so really this part of the process really becomes shorter and shorter because everything is simplified for the printing. And I think that makes using our resources more responsible, right? So less ink, less photo paper, and things like that. Now, if you'll notice, when I printed out This Is Your Moment, somehow that yellow frame got left off in the printing process. And I'm noticing that, I'm aware of that, and I will go back later and reprint that and just glue the right piece on top of that to make sure that that yellow rectangle gets included there to make that layout pop the way that it needs to, or that to make that journal card pop the way that it needs to. And I love just seeing everything come together here in real life. I love nothing more than having layouts printed and in your hand, and being able to share those stories with your family in the living room, around the dinner table or whatever. To share these stories and these memories is really what I'm doing it for, and of course the creative expression, which there is plenty of that here, I do believe. And it's fun just to go back here and add these elements. It's very simple at this point. Of course, you could just print this all as a digital layout or send it as a photo book and be done with it. And that is fantastic. Like, I think if that's your jam and that's what you like to do, I hope that you've come away with some ideas for your digital layout. But I also hope that you'll give the hybrid method a try and see how you like it. Especially if you enjoy, for me, it's about the tactile experience and, using the glue and making something in front of me, just taking some random pieces of paper and pulling them together to make something that looks really pretty and that tells these amazing stories. And so as soon as all of the blocks are adhered down, then you'll get to see the embellishments printed out and where they're all going to go. And that will help you to see the overall layout complete. I did not share the whole Photoshop process because I wanted just to highlight those three methods there. So here's one of the embellishments, and that is actually kind of a title, and it just says, "Imagine a Day Like This." It's word art in the Renewal Collection, along with a little banner, and then a couple of journal spots, or one journal spot and some word art underneath on the other side to balance those two sections of the layout. They balance each other out, the lower left and the lower right. And so then, of course, some other embellishment clusters with labels and flare and the stars. I did repeat the rainbows throughout the layout, and the stars from the Renewal Collection are both repeated throughout the layout, just as a familiar element. Again, we're tying all of these different elements and different pattern papers and different photos and different colors. We're just tying them all together and creating a cohesive layout that also gives you a lot to take in. There's a lot. You're invited on this page to sit down and read these stories and just spend a minute. Spend a minute thinking about other memories that these photos spark, because they tend to do that, and talk about, other things that were happening during this time, or different people's experiences of these memories as we were living them. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am going to wrap it up, but I will have photos at the end of the video. And of course, there will be more details on the Traci Reed Designs blog and more detailed photos on the blog. And I will have links to the Renewal Digital Collection and a link to Erica Zane's template as well right down below for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you back here again real soon. Bye-bye.